Let us begin learning Chapter 6 Sense Organs. Nature is the lovely and attractive world with many beauties and wonders. It is an art of God. We see the beauty of nature with our eyes. The various sounds and melodies are sensed by our ears. We enjoy the fragrance of flowers or the fragrance of food with our nose, and we can feel the cool breeze on our skin. So, these organs which help us appreciate the beauty of nature are our sense organs. Our senses not only pick up information, but our senses also react to that information. For example, what do we do when suddenly bright light falls on our eyes? We try to close our eyes. We touch a hot utensil, our hands retract. So, therefore, our senses not only pick up information, but they also react to the information. Our senses define us. Senses allow us to observe and understand the world around us. So, what we understand of the world around us is because of our senses. This agrees well with the saying, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So, how much do we know about our senses? Let us learn. What do our senses do? Our senses help in survival by directing us towards certain informations of our environment. This information is important for us and it will influence some activity. For example, tasty food is an information given to us from the environment. So our mouth starts watering and we will soon be near the tasty food. So this is how information in the environment is influencing us and it is stimulating some activity in us. And all this is made possible because of our senses. In this example, it is the sense of smell that has drawn us towards the food. Our senses also help us to locate mates, seek shelter, recognize friends, etc. Our senses also give us an opportunity to find pleasure in music, art, and various hobbies. And then there are also our emotions. We can be easily influenced by situations which are not even related to us, and we still feel pain or we still feel happiness based on the situation. So, how do our senses accomplish all this? It is through the sensory system. Stimuli is received from the environment around us through the sense organs, and these sense organs express a response after receiving the stimulus. So let us understand the path of receiving a stimulus to expressing a response. Stimulation to sensation. There are certain conditions, substances, or certain situations in nature that trigger the process of sensing them by our body. These are called stimulants. Information carried by these stimulants are picked up by certain organs. These organs are called receptors. They are present in our sense organs and they are converted into nerve signals. These nerve signals are carried to the brain and processed to create sensation. For example, when reflected light from the surface of a green leaf and its surroundings reaches receptors in our eyes, it is converted to nerve signals. These nerve signals reach the brain. In the brain, it is interpreted as a green colored shape against a background. This green colored shape we see is the leaf. Brain is the center for all the sensitive activities. It receives information through sensory nerves that bring nerve signals from sense organs. And after interpretation, it sends off signals through another type of nerves called as motor nerves. These motor nerves carry signals to the parts that are supposed to show the response. For example, when a mosquito bites us on the hand, the sensation is carried to the brain through the sensory nerves from the skin. The brain sends the message to the hand and our hand tries to kill the mosquito. This happens through motor nerves. All stimuli may not lead to responses. and only a particular level of stimulus will give rise to a response. Changes in stimulus also sometimes goes unnoticed if they are not at a particular level. You can test this by doing a small activity. Dissolve a pinch of sugar in a glass of water. Drink a little of this. Does it taste sugary? Yes, it will taste sugary because there is enough sugar in it and your tongue is able to sense the taste of the sugar. This can be tried with different concentrations of sugar by adding proper quantities, that is, by weighing and preparing solutions. So, for example, the first time you can take 1/4 teaspoon of sugar, add it to 1 cup of water. And the next time you can take half teaspoon of sugar, add it to 1 cup of water and dissolve it. So on and so forth. So from this, you can find out at how much concentration your tongue is able to sense the taste of sugar. So this activity is to say that stimulus should be at a particular level, only then it will be recognized. If it is not at a particular level, it will not be recognized. It can go unnoticed. This is why some people need more sugar in their cup of tea or coffee. You might have also noticed that while drinking tea or coffee, if you eat any sweet substance in between, the tea or coffee appears to be less sweet. So we always take salty snacks with tea or coffee instead of a sweet. This happens because a higher level of the same stimulus masks the stimulus at a lower level. So if we are going to eat a rasgulla while drinking tea, the rasgulla will have more sugar in it than the tea. So the higher level of sugar in the rasgulla will mask the taste sense which is there in the tea. Our sense organs are change detectors. Though our senses are change detectors, sometimes small changes may go unnoticed. Our senses accommodate to unchanging stimulation and we become less and less aware of the constant stimulation. For example, sounds in a printing press may be very uncomfortable for a worker landing there for the first time. As time passes, the person will start feeling comfortable. So what does this mean? We are built to detect changes in stimuli and often we adapt to certain stimuli. Let us now start learning in detail about our sense organs. There are 5 main sense organs: the eyes, ears, skin, nose, and the tongue. These sense organs have sensory receptors. Each receptor is sensitive to a specific type of stimulus. First, let us learn about the eye in detail. Our eyesight is one of the most important senses. 80% of what we perceive or what we understand comes through our eye. Vision helps us to detect desired targets, threats, and changes in our physical environment. It also helps us to adapt accordingly. So, how does the visual system accomplish this? How can we adapt to changes in the physical environment using our eye? Let us do a small activity to understand this. You can look into your friend's eye and observe the external structure. You can draw a diagram and label it. Observe the eyeball of your friend in normal light. Then focus a beam of torchlight onto your friend's eye. What will be the reaction of your friend? When bright light strikes your friend's eye, your friend starts blinking or closing the eye. Now ask your friend to keep the eye closed for around 2 minutes and then let her open the eye. Observe the size of the small black portion in the center of the eye. Later, ask your friend to keep her eye open forcibly as you focus a beam of torchlight. Then you see what happens to the small dark portion. The small black portion in the center of your friend's eye that you see is the pupil. This pupil dilates when there is dim light and it starts closing or becoming small when there is bright light. This happens because the pupil controls the amount of light that is entering into the eye. Now let us learn the structure of the eye. Our eye contains eyelids, eyelashes, eyebrows, and lacrimal glands. Lacrimal glands are the tear glands. A thin layer called conjunctiva covers the front portion of the eye. The eyeball is located in the eye socket. Only 1/6 portion of the eyeball is visible to us. The eye has three main layers. They are the sclera or the sclerotic layer, the choroid layer, and the retina. The outermost thick, tough, fibrous, non-elastic and white colored layer is the sclera. At the center, the sclera bulges and forms the cornea. The cornea is the transparent portion of the sclera, whereas the sclera is opaque. The end of the sclera connects to the optic nerve. The second layer is the choroid layer. This layer is black in color and contains a lot of blood vessels. It encloses the eye except the part called the pupil. The part formed by the choroid layer around the pupil is the iris. Iris is the colored part of the eye that surrounds the pupil. It is a flat ring-shaped membrane located behind the cornea with an adjustable circular opening in the middle. This circular opening is what we call the pupil. The iris is made up of radial and circular muscles. Iris controls the diameter of the pupil using these muscles. Thus, the amount of light entering the eye is regulated. There is a biconvex lens present immediately behind the pupil. This lens is attached to ciliary muscles and suspensory ligaments. The lens divides the inner space of the eyeball. There is an aqueous chamber and a vitreous chamber. Aqueous chamber is filled with a fluid called aqueous humor. Aqueous humor is a thin, transparent fluid which is similar to plasma. It is made up of 99.9% water and 0.1% consists of sugars, vitamins, proteins, and other nutrients. This fluid nourishes the cornea and the lens and gives the eye its shape. Aqueous humor fills the anterior and posterior chambers of the eye. It is one of the fundamental components in ensuring that optical physics and health of your eye are properly maintained. Continuous production of the aqueous humor is essential to the shape and size of the eye and the quality of image that it produces. Vitreous humor is a clear, colorless fluid that fills the space between the lens and the retina of your eye. 99% of it consists of water and the rest is a mixture of collagen, proteins, salts and sugars. So what does the vitreous humor do? It performs a vital role in protecting your eye. It gives a spherical shape to the eye. Retina consists of cells called the rods and cones. These cells gather light and they are called the photoreceptor cells. Rods are responsible for vision at low light or they are responsible for dim vision, whereas the cones are active at higher levels of light and are responsible for color vision. On the retina, there is an area of no vision which is called the blind spot, and there is an area of best vision which is called the yellow spot. The yellow spot is also called the macula or the fovea centralis. It is the area of best vision and here maximum number of cone cells are found. The eye is like a video camera. This video camera is being used by the brain to make pictures. Like the camera, the eye gathers light through a convex lens, focuses it and forms an image in the retina at the back of the eye. The lens of the eye turns the image left to right and upside down. So this you might have already learned that an upside down image is formed through a convex lens. This visual reversal may have influenced the very structure of the brain. The brain tends to maintain this reversal in its sensory processing regions. Most of the information from the sense organs crosses over to the opposite side of the brain. The brain's sensory areas are reversed and inverted. Digital camera simply forms an electronic image, but the eye forms an image that gets extensive further processing in the brain. The speciality of the eye is that it is able to take information from the light waves and transform the characteristics of light into neural signals, and these neural signals are processed in the brain. This whole thing happens in the retina. The retina is the light sensitive layer which has cells at the back of the eye, and it acts like a light sensitive chip in the digital camera. When the lenses are not functioning properly, there are abnormalities. We will learn about the defects and diseases of the eye later in this chapter. Now let us understand more about the receptor cells in the eye. The actual work of the retina is performed by light sensitive cells. These cells are called photoreceptors. Photoreceptors consist of two specialized cells called the rods and the cones. These specialized rods and cones, they absorb light energy and respond by creating nerve impulses. There are nearly 125 million rods containing the pigment rhodopsin. They see in the dark, so they are sensitive to dim light. They detect low intensities of light at night. Cones are responsible for color vision. There are several million cones containing the pigment iodopsin. These cones are sensitive to bright light. Each cone is specialized to detect light waves, and we sense them either as blue, red, or yellow, and the array of colors formed by their combinations. So we see color vision because of these cones. The cones concentrate most in the very center of the retina, and this region where the cones are highly concentrated is called the fovea. The fovea gives us our sharpest vision. It is the place of sharpest vision. With movements of our eyeballs, we use the fovea to scan whatever interests us visually, the features of a face or a flower or anything else. Apart from the rods and cones, there are other types of cells also in the retina. They do not respond directly to light. They just collect impulses from the many photoreceptors and then they pass them on to the nerve cells. Nerve cells bundle together and they make up the optic nerve. Optic nerve transports visual information from the eye to the brain. Please try to understand here that optic nerve does not carry light. Only patterns of nerve impulses conveying information is carried. The information is derived from the incoming light. Each of the eyes collects slightly different view of the object. The brain puts together the two views and then a three-dimensional picture is formed. Then there is one more important area in the retina in each eye, which is called the blind spot. That part of the retina has no photoreceptors. This blind spot is located at a point where optic nerve exits each eye. The result is a gap in the visual field. You do not experience blindness there because what one eye misses is registered by the other eye, and the brain fills in the spot with information that matches with the background. Everyone has a blind spot of vision in each eye. Take this test to check it out for yourself. Look at the graphic of the cross and the circle in this picture. Sit at your computer or your mobile with your nose pointing in between the cross and the black circle. Cover your left eye and stare at the cross with your right eye. Now slowly move towards the screen while still staring at the cross with your right eye. At somewhere around 10 to 14 inches from the computer screen, the black circle will disappear and the area where the black circle was will now be all white. This is your blind spot. If you move closer to the screen or farther away, the circle will reappear. At just the right distance, the circle will disappear. Now try with the other eye, but this time cover your right eye and look at the circle with your left eye. Move closer and you will see that the cross will now disappear. How is our eye protected? Each eye is protected by eyelids, eyelashes, eyebrows, and lacrimal or tear glands. A thin membrane covers the front part of the eye. This membrane is called the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva is made up of transparent epithelium. It is a protective cover to the eye. When any unwanted substance comes in contact with this layer, the lacrimal glands are stimulated, tears are produced, and the substance is washed out of the eye. The fluids that are filled in the eyeball, the vitreous and the aqueous humor, they protect the lens and other parts of the eye from mechanical shocks. Cornea is a clean window in the sclera in front of the iris. It protects the eye from direct exposure to light. So this is how the eye is protected. There are some structures that bring adjustments in the eye. One of them is the iris. Iris is a muscular structure which adjusts the size of the pupil. Pupil is the gap between the iris in front of the lens. Adjustments are made depending upon the light intensity. Ciliary muscles and suspensor ligaments are capable of adjusting the focal length of the eye lens. Iris patterns are individual, they are specific, and they can be used for identification just like our fingerprints. The lenses are biconvex and crystalline in nature. Their shape is adjustable to some extent and their focal length can be changed with the help of ciliary muscles and suspensory ligaments. They can change the shape of the lens from moderate to more convex form. What are illusions and what do they tell about sensation? Sometimes the mind deceives us by interpreting a stimulus pattern differently. This says that we are experiencing an illusion. Illusions can help us understand some fundamental properties of sensation and particularly the difference between what we see and what the external reality is. If you examine a black and white grid, as you stare at the center of the grid, note how dark fuzzy spots appear at the intersection of the white bars. But when you focus on an intersection, the spot vanishes. Why is this happening? The answer is because the receptor cells in our visual pathways interact with each other. The functioning of certain cells that are sensitive to light boundaries inhibits the activity of adjacent cells that would otherwise detect the white grid lines. So this makes us see grayish regions even though we know that the squares are black and the lines are white. This knowledge cannot overcome the illusion. Let us now understand some diseases and defects of the eye. Some of the main diseases and defects of the eye are night blindness. Night blindness is also called nyctalopia. This is because of the defect in the rod cells. Rod cells help us to see in the dark. When these rod cells are not working properly because of a disease or injury or any other condition, we can't see well at all in the dark. So night blindness is a condition where people cannot see in poor light or in the night time. Xerophthalmia is an eye disease where it is caused by a deficiency of vitamin A and there is dryness of the eye. Myopia is a condition in which close objects appear clearly but far objects cannot be seen properly. In this condition, the image is not focused directly on the retina. Image is focused in front of the retina instead of on the retina. This causes blurred vision. The reason may be big size of the eyeball or too much curvature of the outer protective layer of the eye. Then there is hypermetropia, which is farsightedness. It is a condition where nearby objects appear blur and far objects appear very clearly. The condition is also called long-sightedness or farsightedness. The image falls beyond the retina instead of on the retina. Glaucoma is a group of eye conditions that damage the optic nerve. Cataract is a condition where the lens of the eye is cloudy. A dense, cloudy area appears in the eye and it prevents from sending clear images to the brain. Color blindness is an inherited condition where there is inability to see differences in color.